actor, but I have a very, very deep passion for space travel. I hope to one day have the chance to do it myself, and that's what I'm currently doing in my job right now, getting the experience I need to one day have that chance. But what I'm going to talk to you about today is a bit of further afield from my current job in engineering. It's on the subject of biology or botany, as if anyone who ever watches The Martian will hear that word. And it's about growing flowers for space, Hayes. One of the many experiments they do on the International Space Station is learn how to grow different plants in space. It's like fresh fruit and veg for astronauts to eat, because fruit and vegetables are actually a very welcome treat to have. They are, because they have to rely on a diet mostly of freeze-dried and rehydrated food for months at a time when they're on the space station, even for short missions. But fresh fruit and veg is very important for nutrition for the astronauts, for them to keep healthy. One of the reasons they do exercise every day in space for up to 2 or 3 hours at a time. But there are other things that you can grow in space that will have good benefits for the astronauts as well, and those are flowers. Now, growing plants in space can have many benefits. It can, including helping to clean carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere, because in space, on the space station, there's no trees or other plants to absorb the carbon dioxide we breathe out and reproduce oxygen. So they have to have machines to do that. But in the long term, when we eventually learn to live on the moon, and then go on to Mars, we're going to have to know how to grow plants. We are not only for food and nutrition, but also for health benefits, because there are quite a few flowers out there that can offer like herbal remedies or frontier medicine, as they called it in the old days, in the 19th century, that can help with ailments and illnesses or other health problems the astronauts might experience in space. And I'll go a bit through that as we go along. So, as I said before, in the next 20 or so years, we're looking to go all the way to Mars. We are to land the first humans on the planet, but it will be a very long journey, up to 2 or 3 years, 6 to 9 months to get it from Earth to Mars, and then living for 12 to 18 months on the planet, until the Earth and the orbits of both the Earth and Mars are close enough together again, and for the ship to return home with the amount of fuel it can carry, because that's one thing they'll be limited to, the amount of fuel the spaceship can carry, Harry, for the journey. So there are quite a few challenges there are to overcome. We've got to decide how we're going to build the ship, and also prove that astronauts can live in space for long periods of time and survive the effects of zero gravity, because there are quite a few challenges. There are effects zero gravity and solar radiation can have on the human body. As you see here, outside of the Earth's atmosphere, there's a quick message here, so I'm accepted into the chat. So as I said before, there's solar radiation, and in space, outside of Earth's atmosphere, every day you're in space, you get 200 times more radiation than you would here on Earth. And when you're out of zero gravity, you don't have to exercise. You don't have to rely so much on your muscles also to help you to stand up. In fact, your arms will raise. They will, because there's no gravity pulling your arms down. So not only will it affect your muscle, but that'll mean you'll end up losing about 1 to 1.5% of your bone density per month. It's sort of like osteoporosis. The calcium in your bones is leached out in zero gravity. And you're also confined to an isolated environment with not much more space than about that of 2 or 3 777 jumbo jets, or airliners. And you're also confined to only 5 other human beings for months at a time. You can only communicate with home via video calls, like I'm doing here on this call today. And when you're further away from Earth, there will be voice delays. So any response you give, you'll have to wait 8 minutes for a response. And that's due to the distance between Earth and Mars. At furthest, you'd be 140 million miles away. So again, and there will it's not just the effects of solar radiation and the feeling of confinement and the loss of bone density from lack of gravity and risk of exposure to radiation. You'll have no resupply missions, and also there's no day or night in space, so your body clock would be affected. So you wouldn't know when to go to sleep or to when to wake up. It's like when you go on holiday, hey, for a few weeks to a foreign country, you have to readjust to the time zone over there. But there's also other things to take into consideration. Being away from home for so long, it will cause weakness to your immune systems as well. And your vision and blood pressure will change as well. So there's a lot of it's quite a brutal experience on the human body going to another planet, and you can have the risk of developing developing cancer, because that's one of the things radiation can cause. So here's some of the ways astronauts counter these effects. They have to exercise and have strict diets in space. As you can see some pictures of astronauts. A couple of these I've actually met at Samantha Cristoforetti, that she's using a weight resistant machine. She's being held in place. It's by foot straps, and that machine is actually calibrated to reproduce the amount of weight she would have to lift on the ground. And Nicole Stott, who I met at Piccadilly Circus, she's running on a treadmill with a bungee cord, which is holding her down so that she is held in place to simulate the effect of gravity, and her muscles have to work when she runs on the treadmill. So these exercise machines force our muscles to work. We're forced to have to use them when we don't have to in space, and that helps to stop our bone loss and muscle weakness. And there's also technology as well. Ever since the days of Apollo, we've moved from toothpaste tube type foods to over 200 food items we can have in space, which don't necessarily have to be rehydrated. We can actually eat pizza in space now. And we see another astronaut, Shane Canberra, he's using a virtual reality simulator, which is simulating giving him the impression that he's back on Earth as well, because you'll miss home a lot. You will also sometimes virtual reality simulations can help to stimulate or motivate you to exercise in space. They give you more of a home feeling. And there's also medicine, and the research that's being done on the space station enables us to better understand the effects of zero gravity on the human body, how our immune systems are affected when we're away from Earth, and all the germs. You have to know how to draw your own blood in space. And we see Karen Bryan on the bottom right. She's using a pressure probe to measure the effects of zero gravity on vision as well. Thankfully, a lot of astronauts do happen to wear glasses, so I'm not disqualified from it. But looking further afield here, there is another option we have frontier medicine, which is what we used in the 19th century, before we had fancy medicines. And people would use plants or flowers, for herbal remedies. And as you see in the bottom right-hand picture, it has been a long-standing concept for us to envision growing our own plants in space, our own crops, food to eat. As I said before, growing plants in space can also help to remove carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, because that's what plants do. They take in the carbon dioxide we breathe out and recycle it into air, clean air. That's actually why a lot of roads have trees planted across them to help absorb the smog from cars. And one of the things, again, they're doing on the space station right now is we're looking at ways to grow plants in space without having to use soil, because in zero gravity, soil would unfortunately get into everything. It would block up the air supply, get into your eyes. So it's not very good up there. It isn't. So they're looking at ways to grow plants through hydroponics. That involves just using water like soaked sponges to grow plants. And they're also using ultraviolet lights to help simulate the actual effect of the sun and help find the most efficient way to do it. And in the middle slide, you see that the concept of the machines they currently use is to recycle wastewater into clean drinking water. We rely on machines for that. So now, You may think that flowers are an unusual thing to grow in space, but they have many useful health benefits. It's as you see here. These are some of the plants, Hans, which I've chosen for an example. I looked into this after being asked to be a project mentor for a new green outdoor garden a school in Holbrook is growing, and I had to come up with plants that could be used, that could be related to the space theme, and looking into it and taking a look into everyday plants, Hans, that can be grown. Any one of these would have useful benefits for astronauts who live on the moon or eventually on Mars. Chamomile, for instance, can help reduce bone density and even help prevent and cancer forming. And peppermint, and as I don't know how many like peppermint chocolate. There's only one kind I've been able to eat, which I think is very nice. Peppermint can also help to fight infections and even boost energy. And aloe vera is an antibacterial and antitoxin, so that's why it's used in a lot of antiseptic ointments to help to rub on cuts and injuries to prevent infections. And also borscht. It certainly doesn't look like the most appealing plant, but it can help stop seizures and to prevent kidney disease, because again, and zero gravity will affect the performance of your kidneys in space if you stay up for too long. And rosemary can help the blood flow and prevent damage to the liver, another important organ that needs to be looked after in space. Okay, Joe, that's fine. So, and marigold, of course, which is a very old herbal remedy, it contains high amounts of vitamin A and is good for healing. It is. But also in space, our immune systems will be weakened, as it said on the previous slide. So, Aconenia is a good plant to take up because it can help the immune system and also help to prevent against allergies and asthma, things like that. So as you see, it's not just about growing crops, hops. It's about growing plants. Their scents can also, aromas can also help to reduce stress as well, which is one of the things lavender can do, and also prevent insomnia. So getting to sleep would be a very important thing. It would indeed. And there's more examples here. Some of the least known plants like thyme, which is a herb used in a lot of cooking recipes. It can help with prevent protection against bacteria, although that might not be so much of a problem in space because space is such a clean environment, and you don't have to worry about bacterial infections. But again, that's why your immune system is weakened, because you're away from bacteria. And arnica can help against osteoarthritis, and valerian can help the astronauts relax and get to sleep easier. And ginkgo can help with your cognitive function, because being isolated in a sealed environment for months on end, and your stress levels will rise a bit, because it's not easy as you think. As you may remember during lockdown, being isolated and kept away from friends, hence it doesn't help a lot. It doesn't. So other plants like lemon balm can help reduce stress as well. So again, and there's all kinds of possibilities out there. And then there are other reasons to grow these type of flowers, in space. Why I chose these ones specifically, because they don't require much soil. They don't, although you can use other things for soil, like banana skins is one item which the school in Holbrook I was mentoring recently. They use banana skins for fertilizer. So peelings from fresh fruit and vegetables grown in space could help to be used to make fertilizer to help grow new plants in space. And also those flowers, they are capable of being grown on the current facilities they have on the International Space Station without soil. And they're also quite cheap and readily available. And also any foreign particles from these plants, would be biodegradable and non-toxic. So if they got into the air supply, they would break down into the air filters on a space station or on a moon base. They would break down quite easily, and they wouldn't, and they'd be non-toxic. They wouldn't be harmful to astronauts, because that's one of the reasons they don't like getting bits and pieces into the air. They can not only be irritant, but they can also be toxic if you're not careful. So that's what I have. I didn't make the slides too long, and this is my first time presenting. So if anyone wants, I'll take some of the questions now. I will put us back on Teams.
Thank you, Jack. I can see some of the questions coming in.
Yeah.
Oh, we've got quite a few. That's lovely.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Shall I read them out to you? And then, because there might be some we can condense, would you grow fruit and vegetables in space? Really
Yes,
good
absolutely.
question.
Absolutely, I would. Yeah, of course I would, Hood. Although you'd have to be a bit selective on what you do. You can't really grow trees with the current facilities. You have to grow things that can be grown like salad, like lettuce. That's grown on the space station, and cress, things you can make a salad with. If small whole tomatoes might be a possibility. Potatoes, like on the Martian, you need soil for. So, well, the easiest plant to grow in space, I would say, would be lettuce, because that's what they've had the most practice with, and it's really produced quite a nice crop. It has, as I've seen, Peggy Whitson, who was launched to the space station yesterday on a previous mission. She produced quite a big crop of it, and I like lettuce in a salad. So,
Lovely.
So they've grown things like lettuce and cress they have in space, and well, the temperature in space itself, inside the space station, they keep it to between 20 to 25 degrees centigrade. But in space, it can be about 400 degrees in the sunlight height and minus 400 on the nighttime side of the planet. So quite a difference it is, isn't? And enough fuel to travel to and from Mars, yeah, well, you have to build the spacecraft big enough to carry the fuel you need. That's why it takes so long to get to Mars, because they have to use it sparingly and sensibly. And that's why they have to take such a long distance. And of course, you could run out of fuel in space. Like if you wanted to get home too quickly, you burn the engines too long. That's why they have to carry extra. I think Joe's muted.
Classic. Do you want to have a little chat with your class, because they might have lots of questions, lots of ideas, having listened to Jack, and then come back to us with any more questions. So we give them a few minutes, Jack.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, in fact, one thing I'm doing is I'm drinking green tea, which can actually help you to maintain your body weight.
So my question to you, Jack, while the teacher's talking to the students, is when did your interest in space start?
When I was 9, I was it was during the summer holidays. My brother had gone out with his friends to a roller skating rink, and a TV news crew had been there, and they got on film. They did. So I was a bit jealous of having missed the opportunity. This was in the days before YouTube. So that very evening, our neighbor, of all the things she suggested, has said I could do to one day get on TV, it was be an astronaut. That's what started it.
Really? And how did you learn so much? I mean, is some of it through the job that you do, or
some of it, yeah. Some of it is because I learn about all the functions, all the compatibilities that are required between the engineering product and the carrier platform. It's the same with a space capsule and a rocket. It is, but a lot of it is what I learned through my own interest. Like when I was in middle school, I had a CD-ROM for space I brought from W.H. Smith, and that's what really sparked me into looking into space exploration. But when the internet came along, it just excelled from there. Following this space station being built and the work they do in space. And there are some questions coming in now. What plant would you most want to grow in space? Well, the one that I'd enjoy eating, and that's lettuce. That is, because it does go nice. It does as with salad, and it's the easiest to grow, and it's the one that I've seen you can grow the most of. Well, there are all kinds of different plants there are to grow in space. There are. It's again, and you have to think about what you want the most. So to have a good diet, or what reminds you of home, basically. Because, like I said, some plants can help with aromatherapy. Like the scent of lavender can give you the impression that you're home in the outdoors. Because in the space station, you're stuck indoors all day. So that's a difficult one to answer. It is. So. Well, how my dad has raised heads in the garden. We grow green beans. and potatoes, and we even grow some strawberries. That's the thing I'd like to be able to grow in space, strawberries. But a lot of these plants, you need soil. It's only very like salad plants, like lettuce and cress, that you're able to grow in space without soil. So, well, I'm not basically a scientist. I'm an engineer, which is related to the field of science. It's quite a challenging job at times. Sometimes you got to. What I find most challenging, particularly especially now, is being able to make sure, I'm able to answer the questions I'm asked, because people like from Italy who are our customers, they'll ask questions countlessly. They will, and they also, the way they ask the questions, the way they phrase their responses are different to how we do it here in the UK. So you have to overcome some language barriers and cultural barriers as well. So it's like what it is on the space station. You have to all work together, with a common goal in mind. But it's interesting. It is learning about how things work, and the effort it takes to make an idea a reality, and the time and effort it takes, and knowing I'm a part of it.
I'm wondering if any of the students here today, if they know what sort of job that they might like. That might be a discussion that you have with your teacher afterwards, or if any of you are interested in becoming a scientist, and what different types of scientists there are, because there's many, as Jack said, many types. He's an engineer. So absolutely. Lots of discussions for you.
Yeah. One of the other things we're going to do when we go back to the moon is not only learn how to grow our own crops, but how to use the moon's resources to make building materials and rocket fuel and all that sort. So physics and chemistry have their possibilities too, as well as biology, and also engineering as well.
And I think whatever subjects that you like, there will be a link if you're interested in space.
Yeah.
So, we have many children want a STEM career. That's lovely. And it's so exciting to have that inquisitive, inquiring mind. So that's lovely to hear. And I think on that lovely positive note, we'll say a big thank you to Jack. And we hope you enjoy your day, and hopefully this has sparked lots of conversations in the classroom. Thank you very, very much for joining us today. If there's any questions following this, please do send them through to me, and I'm sure Jack will be happy to answer them. Thank you all very much.
Just one last note. We have a saying at the British Interplanetary Society in London, which I'm a member of: from imagination to reality. If you can imagine it, you can make it. And I hope I do get to space one day, but not as a passenger. I wouldn't get on a suborbital rocket if they asked me to. I'd go for orbit any day.
Thank you, everybody. Enjoy your day.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. Bye-bye.
I love their questions.
So do I. One of the fun parts it is of the whole thing.
It really is. Yeah, it really is. Thanks, Jack. That was lovely. I learned a lot.
Well, taking up that project for Holbrook really gave me the chance to learn as well.
Yeah. So we'll send you the link when we've done that. So have a good day, and thanks again very much.